What's up, bitches?
Let's talk about crime.
What's up, bitches?
Holler. I'm tired.
That's because you drank last night.
Okay, listen. Yes, I hosted my work's holiday party.
With alcohol.
Got a little crazy.
With alcohol.
I love everybody.
With alcohol.
But they didn't leave till 3 a.m.
Because of alcohol.
Alcohol makes everything better.
And also, you're like 85 years old and 10 o'clock is what time you want everybody to leave your house.
Bro, I was ready to be like asleep by like when I saw 2:30, I was like, what?
You're like, how is this a thing?
I was like, that's not me.
You always go to bed before everybody else. Like, I go to bed at like 1:30 in the morning.
Absolutely not.
Pretty much always. And I get up at like 7:45.
I mean, it depends.
Pretty much every morning.
It depends. Because like that day that we were tasting Javi coffee, that I think because of that, I was up playing like video games till like 1:30. I was like, I feel wild.
I don't have that. I wish I had that. I'm
only 24.
I didn't have that when I was 24.
You were also a mom of 2 kids.
I've been drinking coffee since I was like 10 though. So maybe that's why. Like the coffee, it doesn't give me that, oh, I got to stay up. It doesn't give me energy. It makes me go, oh, I can actually function today. Like that's what coffee does to me. If I don't have coffee, I get a killer headache and I can't figure out my life. So I have to have my coffee in the morning just to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, absolutely not. I need my coffee.
For
everything.
No, it's there. No. Anyways, so we're going to be actually doing a bunch of pre-recording. So if these end up sounding very similar, or if we're talking about kind of the same like stuff, it's because we are actually pre-recording like 4 episodes. Because with Christmas coming, we have a trip going to Tennessee for a week. We have Christmas after that. So it's like, I figured if we pre-record a bunch of stuff, it kind of gets us right into the new year. My hope is that we pre-record enough that I don't have to actually dig into more research until the beginning of the year next year. And there's the biggest reason for that is I love Christmas and I love true crime, but together they kind of suck. It kind of sucks to spend your day researching terrible fucking people, but then trying to put that to the side and be like, oh, it's Christmas time. So I'd rather just like focus on being happy with Christmas. And then I'll go back to my dark ass life afterwards. So
That's where we're
at. Anyways. And then also this episode might be a complete shit show because my computer wanted to shit out on me today. And I wanted to I even looked at my husband at one point and said, would it be a terrible thing if I chucked this fucking piece of shit computer across the whole entire house and broke it in a million pieces and stopped doing the podcasts? And he was like,
You should have asked Anna for a computer.
What can I don't want one. The thing is, the computer's fine. It's just sometimes it wants to be a bitch. Today it wanted to be a bitch and I was in a hurry. I've got a lot of things to do and I needed to get my shit done. So I had to handwrite this fucking episode, which is something I've never done. So we're going to see.
Side note, I had told her, oh, you could also use your iPad.
Yeah. And I tried like the last episode of Fatal Blend. I tried to read it off the computer instead of printing it. And that was awful. Awful. I'm a paper person. And I thought I was like a paper pencil person, but I realize now that I don't want to do the research by hand. I want to do the research by computer and use the computer and type. It's just a lot more convenient and easy. So you ready to talk about who we're talking about today?
And who is that?
That is a guy named Steven Capobianco. I totally could be butchering the name, and frankly, I don't give a shit, but that's who it is. Now, this happened February 9th of 2014. Charli Scott disappears, and the last person to see her is Steven Capobianco. And this happened in Maui, so Hawaii. So there are a couple of names, or not names, but like places in here that I'm probably not going to say correctly because I'm not from Hawaii. And so I don't. Just bear with me. That's all I'm going to say. So we're going to do a little background, but it's going to be a little different. This episode's going to be totally different. So there was literally like hardly anything on Steven. So we're actually going to do just a smidgen of background on Charli, and then we'll kind of go from there. So Carly Scott was born November 9th, 1986. And her family actually, I think family and friends actually ended up calling her Charli. Like that was her nickname. So which is so adorable, by the way. So her nickname is Charli. So we're going to refer to her as Charli through the whole episode. But when I say Charli, I'm talking about Carly Scott. She was one of 5 girls. So she had all sisters, 4 other sisters. She was a very strong student. And she was actually about to earn her cosmetology degree when she disappeared. So she was very much like a go-getter. She was a go-getter. Now in 2009, she met and started dating Steven Capobianco. Now, he is actually 3 years younger than her. So she meets a younger guy.
Cradle robber.
And they lived together. They actually lived together for a couple of years. Now, during those couple of years, they're dating, they're together, but Steven is telling everybody that they're roommates.
What a dick.
He's
what a fucking dick.
Now, unfortunately, she loves him a lot. And even after they break up, she loves him a lot. She finds out she's pregnant. She loves him a lot. She's living her life. But when he needs her or wants her or calls her, she's there for him. Like this is just how she is, right? Steven, there is not a lot of background information on him. And I don't know if that's just because this is a newer case because it's from 2014 or if people just don't give a shit enough about him to find out his background or if he's not willing to talk about it. I don't know. So I have no idea if he has a good background, bad background. I don't know. So we're not going to judge the background. But what I can tell you is that, as I said before, he met Charli in 2009. They start dating, living their life. They move in together, have a good time. And then after they break up, he has another girlfriend and he finds out that Carly is pregnant and he immediately wants her to have an abortion. She does get pregnant after they've broken up and while he's with his girlfriend. So his version of it is the reason, or he's pretty sure he knows how she got pregnant. Of course you fucking know how she got pregnant, dude. Like, obviously. But
it's the stork or whatever it is. It
like,
flew
come the
in
fuck on,
and
bro.
was like, hey.
So he's pretty sure he remembers when this happens. He said that his girlfriend was cheating on him and he knew it. And so he went to the bar. He got pissed drunk. And next thing he knows, he's with her. He's with Charli and he wakes up in the morning and he leaves. That's when he thinks she got pregnant. My personal thought is I think you were boinking other people the whole fucking time. And I think that this is another one of those situations of he went back to Charli multiple times when he wanted something. Not because he loved her, not because he cared about her. He knew he could get whatever he wanted from her.
Sorry for the men that listen, but it's like sometimes your typical fucking guy who basically plays with your heart and like knows that you like them or love them.
Yeah,
and so
that's
instead
exactly
of
what it is.
Being a fucking decent human and having that with that other person or being honest and being like, that's not how I feel, they just toy with their fucking emotions and play with their heart.
And that's exactly what I think he was doing.
Piece of shit.
So he finds out she's pregnant and he tells her like, I want an abortion. It also comes out like in his trial that, or like when he's like it being interviewed and all this kind of stuff, that he had actually made 2 appointments at an abortion clinic that he had told her to meet him at and that he would like go there. And both times she did not show up because she decided she wanted to keep this baby. And so he was very angry about it. There's also some text message proof of him saying something along the lines of he's being asked, hey, did you know that she was pregnant? And she's saying it's yours. And his response was, well, I thought she took care of that. So he is just, he's just like a shit human. So it's fine. So again, this is going to be different because I'm literally going to go right into the murder. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about like the trial than we normally would talk about because that's where a big portion of this story comes into play. Okay. On February 9th, 2014, Charli is now 5 months pregnant and she has dinner with her family. She leaves their house or leaves from, I think it was their home at 8:00 at night. She's heading home. Well, she gets a phone call from Steven at about 8:30. And now Steven says, I did call her. I called her because my truck had broken down. And I was asking her if he's saying his truck broke down like that morning of February 9th. And he said, I was calling her and asking her if she would meet me at the truck and help me get it running and then follow me to my house to make sure the truck didn't break down. And by truck, they call it a truck by truck. It's a 4Runner. So it's a 4Runner.
Okay.
That is important. There's a reason you'll get it. But
okay.
He drives a 4Runner. Now, so she does. She actually shows up. And according to Steven, He says she literally sat there for like 45 minutes to an hour with her headlights on from her car, shining at my car so that I could try to get my truck to work. And he said he finally got it started. And he jumps in and she says, I'll follow you to make sure that you get back to your house. Now, he is saying that she follows him for a while and then all of a sudden she like disappears out of his rear view mirror and he doesn't know where she goes and he heads home. That's the story.
First of all, fucking asshole. I would have turned around and been like...
Well, I mean,
I don't believe it, but I'm just saying I would have like... Or at least called and been like, hey, like...
Right. So that's what he says.
Well, I never fucking know, man.
Her family can't get a hold of her. Right. So they haven't heard from her. They don't, whatever. And so they're like, this is kind of strange. So they end up deciding to do their own search party because they have no idea where she is. They contact the authorities. They contact local people and they're like, hey, our daughter is missing and she's 5 months pregnant and we need help. So they start looking looking basically, I'm assuming, because again, I didn't go into detail. I'm assuming they're literally searching from like the path from where she would have left
to like her house.
Right? Well, then they have some volunteers who are like, well, we're going to dig more into let's see if we can find some stuff out. Well, they end up finding out that her phone was pinging off of different cell towers, right? So her GPS pinged from her phone. It pinged from and this is one where I know I'm gonna fucking butcher it, the Kenai Peninsula. Okay. Now this is on Maui, Kenai Peninsula.
I think that might be right. If I'm being honest.
That's my guess. That's my best
If I'm being
guess.
honest, I think that actually might be right. I could be totally wrong. But
now, the Kenai Peninsula is 20 miles from her home. So that already is a little sus.
That's fucking
like,
weird.
Why is her phone pinging all the way somewhere she probably would not be being? So they, the authorities now know, the volunteers know, and they decide they're going to go ahead and search the Kenai Peninsula because if that's the last place her phone pinged, there's a chance. What if she went off the side of the road? What if she fell into a ditch? What if her, whatever. So that's where they go. Well, while they're searching the Kenai Peninsula, they actually find bloodstained clothing and they realize it's her bloodstained clothing. They find a shirt and a skirt and a bra and they're all belonging to Charli. Now, the skirt actually also has multiple holes in the abdomen part of the skirt. Okay, so now they're already like, okay, this is very fucking not okay. Then they continue to search the peninsula and they do find her vehicle, which is also a Toyota 4Runner as well. And this vehicle is not just sitting on the side of the road. This motherfucker is burned and abandoned. So it's been lit on fire.
Christ.
Then they continue to search more and they find her jawbone and her fingertips. That's what they find. Now, obviously, Her jawbone. Now, obviously, they realize she's not alive.
Yeah.
And they now know this. And so then the first thing they do is start thinking like, what the fuck? So they're going to ask everybody. The family doesn't know what the fuck. They ask Steven. He doesn't know what the fuck. They ask people who know her. Nobody don't know.
Knows a thing.
Right. Well, they do ask Steven at one point, does she have any like enemies or like, do you know anybody who'd want to hurt her? And his ass says, I mean, I don't know. We didn't really hang out that much. Motherfucker, you were literally her boyfriend for a couple of years. But we didn't really hang out that much. But, she does have a mouth on her. So maybe that got her in trouble. Okay, so this is the kind of stuff he says. Through interviews and investigations, he becomes their main suspect. And they do end up arresting him for the murder of Charli. We're going to get into the trial because here's the thing. So he is arrested and his trial doesn't even start until June of 2016. And the whole time he's maintaining that he's innocent. He didn't do this, whatever. However, during the trial, there was a lot of different testimony that they brought in. And most of it contradicted what Steven had claimed throughout all of his interrogations. So like for one, he said, yeah, Charli met me to help me with my broken down 4Runner. She showed up. She sat there for a while with her headlights on. She then followed me back, to my house to see if it broke down again. But I lost sight of her at about 10:30 p.m. And he said like a specific location where he had lost sight of her. And then he also claims that he was home by 11 p.m. The problem with this is one of his coworkers actually said, that's not possible because I saw him driving into Hana, which is opposite direction of where he would have lived. Okay. Opposite direction of where he said he was going. And she said, and that was like, I saw him between like 9:30 and 11:30. Like it was later at night. So number one, no. And then she said, but the other thing I noticed was he was driving a way nicer 4Runner than what he usually drove. So like the 4Runner that I've seen him drive was a silver 1992. This 4Runner kind of looked like his 4Runner, but it had much rounder edges and it was way nicer. Well,
I'm assuming that one.
Charli's 4Runner was a 1997 4Runner. And it was a like goldish. It was like, I don't remember the color, but it basically in the dark, it could be mistaken as silver. Right. And his was a silver 1992. Okay. So they're very similar body styles, but again, there is some differences. So somebody says that. Now, Steven then says, of course, that his truck broke down on the side of the road the morning of February 9th. And he had hitchhiked to work that day because he had left to go to work. His grandfather actually said, no, he left at like 6:15 in the morning in his car. And then he's like, yeah, I did. But then it broke down on the side of the road. I had to get to work. I hitched a ride because Charli's family at one point had asked him, like, if your car broke down, how did you get to work? And he said, her sister, Charli's sister, had asked that. And he like paused for a hot like 2 minutes. And then he was like, well, I hitchhiked. She said that when she asked him that, she was like, you could tell he was trying to come up with some weird thing, right? She's like, so he says that it broke down. He says that it was in the morning. He says that he had to hitch a ride, went to work. And then later that night is when he called Charli to come help him fix it. So his car's been sitting on the side of the road all day is what he says. However, there is surveillance video that shows that same exact car that was broken down that morning pulling into the parking lot of the Manna Foods at 6:53 a.m., which is where Steven works. And it shows him get out of the car and go to work. So his car was not broken down on the side of the road. Also, that day, Steven's friend basically calls him and says, hey, I left my backpack in your truck. Like, when can I get it? And he's like, oh, you can go grab it whenever you want to. It's in my car in the parking lot of my work. It's unlocked. Just go grab it whenever you want to. So your car was not broken down at 6 o'clock in the morning, sir. At 12:45 a.m. on February 10th. So again, remember, she went missing on February 9th, the evening of February 9th. So on February 10th at 12:45 in the morning, there was a resident of Haumana Road that reported being woken up by a thick toxic smoke. And they were kind of like, they were a little like annoyed by it more than anything because there was an area that they called the Jaws. And I think it's probably where surfers go. I think it's where the surfers go. And he actually, this person thought that maybe there was like a bonfire or something going on over there. So he just kind of ignored it or whatever. Well, that Jaws place happens to be like 5 miles from where they found her car. So now obviously you can know that the car is what that resident was smelling. Then on February 10th at between 7 and 7:30 a.m., Charli's dog. So she had 2 dogs that were her pride and joy. So one of her dogs, Nala, is actually found at a local marketplace, which was between Kenai and Hana, which are the 2 areas that they're trying to figure out, where she is. The dog's not injured. It's a pit bull.
My pities.
Yeah, it's a pit bull.
I'm a pit bull lover.
And it's not injured at all. And actually, upon close examination, because, they look the dog over, they look at her feet and her paws were not messed up at all. Like, they should have been fucked up a little bit because according to where the dog would have left from, which would be where the burned car was, it's 5 miles. That dog would have had to walk 5 miles on gravel, dirt, forest. They would have some scruffy feet, dirty feet, scratchy feet. 5 miles on pavement, gravel, you're going to have some rough feet. Nothing at all. Which leads you to believe
the dog was dropped off.
Yeah, which leads you to believe the dog was dropped off somewhere in that area. So there's that. Now at the trial, it is actually, they had like over 70, I think it was over 70 testimonies. These testimonies came from Charli's family and friends, police officers, expert DNA testers, cell phone analysts, forensic pathologists. They also introduced over 400 exhibits, including photographs and cell phone records. Now, Steven was pleading not guilty, and he was being charged with second-degree murder and second-degree arson of her car. And he continued to say, nope, it wasn't me. I didn't do it. Now, Detective Wendell Liu, who was part of this investigation, did say and testified to this in the trial that Steven was very cooperative with the investigation. They had asked him a lot of questions multiple times. He had even come out publicly and said, that he was, you know how they do. I really want them to be found. I hope they're safe. I still love them. I have an unborn child. I want to have my legacy go on. You know, all the things.
Motherfucker.
However, in investigation or during interrogations, the detective said that he was cold, unemotional, and standoffish, and literally looked like he could give a shit that she was missing. So that's always like a red flag. Also, some of his former girlfriends testified, like a couple of them. And they actually testified that Steven didn't like children, like he hated kids. One of his ex-girlfriends in particular, said that when they were together, he had actually specifically told her, if you become pregnant, you will get an abortion. And he actually had the abortion clinic that she would go to that he could just send her to because he never wanted to fucking have kids.
Jesus.
So his whole, I have a fucking legacy to help. No, you don't. No.
Well, I mean, it's bullshit anyways, but even more bullshit.
Yeah. He does have his current girlfriend, you know, during this time. And his actual current girlfriend doesn't even live in Hawaii. She was planning on moving there, but she actually lives in like the lower 48 states or whatever, or the lower 40, whatever. She lives on the mainland. Okay. And she would be Skyping with him and talk. That's how they would like talk and stuff. Well, she had talked to him on February 9th. And then he had like got off the phone or got off the Skype call with her. And then she talked to him again on February 10th at 2:30 in the morning, which I still am like, there is not like that. Okay. So it's 2:30 in the morning. She's talking to him. And
listen, I barely made it till 2:30 yesterday. Or this morning. I couldn't.
So he ends up talking to her for a hot minute and he's acting a little strange, but like whatever. But he shows her, oh yeah, look what I did to my hand. And he shows her the back of his hand and he has like an injury to the back of his hand. It almost kind of looks like his hand got burnt or something, right? So he tells her that he got this from working on his truck. He's like, I was, look what the fuck happened to my hand. However, so she testifies to that. His coworkers testify to the fact that he told them that he had actually got that by working on a friend's Honda. And then the police testify and said, well, that's weird because he told us that he got it because he's a baker and he burned his hand at work. And then another police officer said, well, that's funny because he told me he got it from working on the window of his truck. So he has one injury on his hand that he has 4 different explanations.
At least have the same fucking story all around. Like, right? I'm just saying.
So needless to say, there is a lot that goes into their trial. There's a lot that goes into the trial. It takes like 6 months of trial. Okay. And there is a jury of 6 men and 6 women. They end up finding him guilty of murdering Charli.
Did they ever find her actual body or was it in the car? Do they know?
They have not found her body. To this day, they have not found her body. As a matter of fact, her mother has pleaded with him to just tell them where the rest of her body is. I'm going to be honest and say I don't think he could point them in the direction of that because I don't think he could even do it because it sounds like, just based off what they found, that he killed her, dismembered her, and like threw her body parts all over the place. Like that's kind of what it sounds like. So, or maybe he burned her in the car and then took pieces. I have no idea. But he was found guilty. He was given a minimum of 40 years for second-degree murder, a minimum of 10 years for second-degree arson. So a minimum total of 50 years before he's even eligible for parole. Okay. Charli's mom says that she thinks that's garbage. And I fucking totally agree with her.
I think he should get life in prison.
She said that she believes strongly that he will get a reduced sentence after serving 10 years in prison. That is where she's at with it. She's like, I don't think he'll serve a full 50.
Which is coming up in what, like 2 years? You said 2016.
Well,
right?
2016 is when, yeah. So in 2 years.
I mean, we're so close to January, so basically a year.
If what she's saying is true, in 2 years, there's a chance he could get let out. Now, I don't think they'll let him out after 10 years. But I do think she is right. I don't think they'll make him serve 50 years before they let him apply for parole. Because the thing is, he has to serve 50 years before he can even try to get parole. I think they're going to, after 10 years, go, well, you can start, you know what? You've been a good prisoner. You can go ahead and start, whatever. You can start appealing, but you can start
Isn't it appealing?
No, it's not appealing. You can start applying for parole. I know that's not the right word, but I don't know what's wrong with me. But yeah, I think they're going to let him be able to try to get out on parole before 50 years is up, which I is so wrong. I don't understand in our justice system why it is that we allow that to go through.
So if she was pregnant, though, shouldn't he have been charged for her murder and the baby's murder?
So her mom is a big proponent of trying to get the laws changed. You got to also remember it depends on the states you live in. So this is Hawaii. So their states are different.
Washington is
because one of the things was that they also said was they're really pushing for changes to the law because in other states, this would have been first degree murder. And he would have been eligible for either life sentence without parole or death penalty, depending on the state. That's not how it was.
This definitely deserves the death penalty.
So
100%.
She said that, and they don't take into account the unborn baby. Now, certain states do. Hawaii is just
I know
not
that's
one
like
of them.
like a 50-50.
Yeah, so, but
I was
her
just
mom
curious
is also pushing for changes to the law for unborn children as well. Steven has now actually appealed the ruling because his claim was that it was impossible for the jury to avoid hearing news and public opinion on the trial because when this trial was going on, before they made their ruling, there was a mandatory break period because of Christmas. So they made the jurors basically dismiss, go spend the holiday with their families and come back. And he's like, during that time, this shit was all over the news. They could have been
skewed one way or
Absolutely. The other. Which, to be fair,
kind of agree with that.
That is true. And that is scary to think that would be a way that he could get his, at least a new trial or get his 50 years overturned because of that one snafu.
Now, I will say, if that one snafu really overturns some of that shit, that to me is also a garbage fucking system.
100%.
Because you should look at that and be like, basically, I hear what you're saying, but the fucking facts are the facts, bro.
Right, because he's trying to say that
like it's not fucking happening.
The jury would have been swayed. However, this happened in 2021. This is when he appealed it. Yeah, this is when he was appealing it. Now, the court basically brought the evidence. They looked over the evidence. They looked over the trial, and they said, bitch, absolutely not.
Thank the fucking Lord.
They said, there is no way these jurors' minds were made up or were skewed one way or the other. There was way too much evidence that puts you, which, by the way, the fact that they don't have a full ass body is always amazing to me when they can convict somebody of murder when they don't have I know that they know she's dead. Because of her jaw and fingertips.
But like sometimes
it's
when
harder.
You have the body, the full body, there could potentially be like DNA evidence and things like that.
Or they can downgrade it to manslaughter or whatever, right? And so the fact that he was second degree murder and had this big of a sentence was great. But it's because of all of the other types of evidence they had. His first of all, contradicting literally everything he said.
Well, and he came up with so many different stories. Just
many
for
different
the hand
stories.
Alone.
Exactly.
Like
exactly.
Again, I'm not condoning anything that he fucking did, obviously, but I'm like, if you're gonna do something like that, you better get all your fucking ducks in a row, bro. Have the same story to the same people. Try to get some alibis. Like,
yeah, yeah.
Listen, if I ever wanted to, I think I've learned enough from people's mistakes. I'm just saying.
You would think that other people would, like other criminals.
No.
Obviously, they're not true crime fans.
The true crime fans are the ones that you got to worry about.
I was just going to say, true crime fans, for the most part, people who
can get away with it, man.
True crime fans, they're not going to ever do anything like this because they're so fascinated by it.
But if we had
to, motherfucker, we could get away with some shit.
100%.
We could get away with some shit. But anyway.
100%.
So right now, as it sits, he is currently
rotting
at Seguro Correctional Center in Eloy, Arizona. So he got transferred to Arizona for his prison. I'm gonna sidebar this real quick.
He needs to be in Alcatraz.
In the dilapidated Alcatraz right now.
The one with the fucking broken, shattered toilet. Not even a full toilet. Broken, shattered one.
No working water.
No. In the solitary room, the one that's haunted.
So I will just say this, and this has nothing to do with the case, but it has to do with where he's in prison. My biggest fucking pet peeve, honest to God, as I research these things, is the prisons that are for-profit prisons. It fucking drives me nuts. And this happens to be one of those. He's in one of those prisons, and it just, for some reason, it just bothers me a lot when somebody goes to a jail that is a for-profit jail, because I feel like the for-profit jails, because they're trying to profit, they don't do the jobs they're supposed to do. They're there to make money. Prison should never be something you make money on. Prison is supposed to be a place where people go because they did bad things and they have to pay for their crime.
It's supposed to be a punishment.
Yeah. I know this is going to be an unpopular opinion. Prisoners do have rights. They're humans. At the end of the day, they're human people. And they do have rights. And I feel like for-profit prisons don't give two shits about those. And I do think sometimes because of the treatment of prisoners in for-profit prisons, they get out because of that. And so it bothers me so much when I see...
I'm 50-50 on that because sometimes... I mean, I know they're all humans, but sometimes I'm like, you're such a fucking piece of shit,
you might
garbage
be garbage,
pile human.
but
you took away somebody else's rights and their life.
Yep, you did.
And an unborn child.
Yeah, it's true. But the whole point of prison is you put him in jail and he gets very limited resources. He gets very limited rights. But they don't deserve to, like, for instance, this is, again, we're going way off topic. There was a prison that would serve pork products to their Muslim inmates, which is so fucking wrong. I don't give a shit what these people did. Their religion
I'm not
is
saying shit like that.
No, but that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is for-profit prisons, I feel like are not held to the same standards as prisons that are not for profit. I feel the same way about medical. I don't think that our medical system should be for profit. I think the medical system should be there to serve and help people. And so I don't know why it bothers me so much that he's in a for-profit prison. And it's not him being there. It's just when I saw that it was a for-profit prison, I was like, motherfucker. Like, I don't know. I just don't. There's a lot less information to find out about people in for-profit prisons because they're not required by law to share anything. And I fucking don't like that. They should be public record. And I could not find out if he's still there. Like, I looked up the inmate. So the thing was, I looked up inmate search on him because I do that on all of them. And it won't let me search him. It just comes up with like, nope, sorry, we can't find this inmate. So either he's no longer in that prison and nobody knows that, or they just don't really want to share information with people. So regardless, he is currently in prison and he is supposed to be serving at least 50 years. But to be honest with you, I agree with her mom. I agree with Charli's mom. I don't think he will. I think he'll get out or at least have the possibility of parole sooner. And it's kind of a bummer. But he was... Let's see here. In 2021, he was 30. So that means he is 33 years old currently. His 10 years, like you said, will literally be in 2 years that he could potentially get parole. If he serves 50 years like he's supposed to, it's like he wasn't going to get out until 2066. Yeah, 2066 would be 50 years. But I agree with her mom.
He'd be in what, like his 80s if he's in his 30s right now?
Yeah. Well, no, because you figure he's already served almost 10 years in prison. So he was in his 20s.
70s. He'd be in his 70s.
He'd be in his 70s.
The thing that's just frustrating about that is like, I get it. If he doesn't get out, which I fucking hope he doesn't, but it's like, yeah, you're going to be 70, but you're also only going to be 70. You know what? Like, for me, with this, what I feel like is I feel like this man should never fucking see outside of a prison cell until the day he dies.
I agree. I think that he
and
should.
to know that he could have not one, but technically 2 chances to.
Well, and the reason
to still have at least some sort of a life is fucking bullshit.
Because currently at the time, I don't know what Hawaii's, if they've changed anything, but at the time, he was not eligible for first-degree murder. He was not eligible for life in prison without parole. And he was not eligible for death penalty. And so I don't even care. Again, I've said this before. Death penalty is there. If we were to take death penalty away from every single state in the United States, I wouldn't care. That's fine. I don't care about that. However, I will never understand how he obviously pre-planned this shit. Let's not pretend.
Right.
He obviously pre-planned this shit.
Obviously not well enough.
No, but I mean, in his brain, he called her there to fucking kill her. And so the fact that is considered second-degree murder I don't understand. I don't understand what the laws are in Hawaii for first-degree murder. I know in Washington, one of the things that you have to have for first-degree murder is it has to be premeditated. I do know that. So he would probably have qualified for first-degree murder if they could prove that he had planned it. Right. But maybe that's the thing is maybe they didn't feel that they could prove that he planned it. Right. Maybe that is the big thing.
I mean, that makes sense because they didn't have, like you were saying, like
they didn't have
the
anything.
Body.
Right.
There was, I mean,
so I understand that.
Technically,
but
if you want to get technical, it's all, I hate to say it, but it's all kind of circumstantial evidence.
Yeah, it is.
Like there's nothing that's like like DNA, where it's like
there was no
this
DNA.
Is him,
right?
Like,
but the one thing they did have was
it's all just too obviously like it's almost like obvious but not obvious. You know what I mean?
well, you hit it right. It's circumstantial evidence. However,
but enough to fucking know he's guilty.
Exactly, because he didn't. There was too many things that were one. Just the fact that he lied multiple times about stuff. The fact that he lied about his car being broken down. The fact that it would be proven through cell phone records that he did call her and ask her to come. Like he did have a phone conversation with her at 8:30. That's proven. The fact that he hated that she was pregnant. The fact, like all these things. And then he lies about where he gets his injuries, which could very well have been from lighting her car on fire. Right. So it's like there was a lot of circumstantial evidence that 100%, in my opinion, proved that he did this. It's one of those things that it's just like, I get why he only got what he did, but I have a hard time.
I get it, but it's still. It's one of those things where because it's circumstantial, on a technicality, it's circumstantial.
I mean,
it's one of those like in your heart of heart, like that's what he did.
Yeah.
And in your heart of heart, you just fucking know.
Yeah.
You are the person that killed this woman and her unborn child.
Yep. And it sucks, but at the same time, I'll take 50 years over nothing.
Yeah.
So there's that part of it too.
Yeah,
where it's
because
like,
it could have been like a slap on the wrist.
Right. So I'm hoping. The best case scenario of this is that he hits his 50 years. And again, it's not 50 years and he gets out of jail. It's 50 years because it's a life sentence. So it's 50 years and then he can go up for parole. That is what the best case scenario in my mind is, that he serves his full 50 years and then he has the ability to apply for parole after 50 years. And if he chooses, he can choose to or not to, whatever. By that point, you're in your 70s. Who knows? Maybe you just like prison enough that you stay there. I don't know.
He's like, I'm an OG. It's fine.
Seriously, like for real. Like maybe that's where it is. But my hope is that he serves at least the 50 years that he was given, and then he can go for parole and we can kind of, figure it out from there.
And then they say, fuck you and your parole. You're not getting out ever again.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping.
I agree. I do
whether
too.
It's the 10-year or the fucking 50 years.
I do too. I 100% hope that he always gets denied parole. That's always the hope. Because I don't think that prison reforms people. So for me, I think that you can't reform this guy. So you might as well just leave him locked up so that he can't hurt anybody else. Right. So, yeah, it's a really sad case. And it's one of those things that I wish there was a more closure for the family.
Yeah.
They
agree.
know that she passed away, but they don't have everything, and so, and
they don't have that closure.
Well, and I was going to say one of the other two things, and then we'll be done. During the trial, his defense attorney actually came out and said that, and he said this to the jury, he said, if you honestly think that my client murdered and then dismembered her because she has a mouth on her, I don't know what else I could say to you to make you believe otherwise. Because I guess that was one of the things that the prosecuting attorney said was that, he literally said, I don't know if she has any enemies, but she has a mouth on her. And then what do they find? They find her fucking jawbone. So they're talking about how maybe she pissed him off and he killed her. Maybe it wasn't planned. And maybe she showed up and got into an argument and he killed her, whatever. Regardless,
he still fucking killed her.
Right. And then the other thing was, the one thing that was a big point, and I do agree with this, is she was, they believe, stabbed because of the skirt that they found multiple times in the abdomen. And one of the big points was he didn't want a baby. He didn't want her to have the baby. She was 5 months pregnant and she was wearing a maternity skirt is what she was wearing. So where he stabbed her would have literally been where she was pregnant. And
I think that when you said that, that's instantly what I thought.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, so he definitely killed her because he didn't want the baby. That was the very first thing that came to my brain. And because of how much he hated children and didn't want to have children, and the fact that the one girlfriend had testified about the abortion clinic,
and
that alone, again, it's circumstantial, his current
girlfriend at the time, like when this whole thing happened, he did tell her about Charli being pregnant. And she said that when he told her, she was so upset at first, and she was like, I don't want to be a stepmom. Like, I don't want to do this. And then he tried to reach out to her a couple of times and she ignored him. Not because of anything other than let's not forget that he completely cheated on her. So there's that part. But then she said she ended up, reaching back out to him and saying things like, I'm not happy about this, but I don't want you to be a deadbeat dad. So we'll figure it out. That's what she had told him. So there's that part too, where she, it literally destroyed his relationship with his girlfriend at the time because he got somebody else pregnant. And so it's just, the whole thing is so sad. And I know
it's fucking gut wrenching.
It is.
That
it's
one,
totally.
that one's definitely one of the ones that's gut wrenching. And I think it's just gut wrenching because she loved him.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously he didn't love her, but she had trusted him and was carrying his child. And I think whether he would have stayed around or whether he would have booked it, she would have still been a mom.
Yeah.
And so, that child and her, their life's gone.
It's one of those things that I sit here because I'm a mom. You're 24 years old, so this hits very close to home. She was 27, I think, when she went missing. But you sit there and you think about it as a parent, and you're like, when you raise your kids and they turn 18 years old, and then they turn in they get into their 20s and they move out of your house, your only hope after they move out is that they're gonna be okay. You cannot coddle them, right? And so when you go to bed at night, you don't talk to your children every day once they've moved out of your house. You don't see them every day.
I mean, unless you're me.
I don't talk to you. Well, yeah.
Pretty much. Well, first of all, side note, I do talk to her every day because my dog is
my
an anxious
granddog
dog.
comes over.
Literally, instead of having, you guys, this is ridiculous. You know how people pay for human daycare? Well, it's very popular because a lot of people my age especially have dogs and don't have children. So they have doggy daycare. Olive gets boarded there for when I go on trips and stuff. I'm not joking when I say if I basically wasn't down the road from my parents, I would have to pay for doggy daycare.
Yeah,
for my dog.
a needy little. She's not even
She cost me $3,000 for training.
She's a big one.
She's
big.
I love her, but
Big Bertha.
She causes me more stress.
She's like a real child.
She literally I drop her off either in the morning or my parents will come and get her from my house.
Yeah.
And then I will call them and they'll even call me and they'll be like, so are we feeding Olive
feeding
tonight?
her?
Is she spending the night?
Yep.
And I'm just like, this is so stupid. She's a dog.
And we do, Sierra does reference us as Gigi and Pop Pop. And she knows us as Gigi and Pop Pop. So I do talk to Sierra every day. I see her almost every day. However, if I wasn't taking care of Olive during the day, I wouldn't see her every day. And I don't think I would talk to her every day. And so therefore, that's the scariest part, is your child that is not a child, is a full-fledged adult. You don't stop worrying about your kids once they're adults. Well, no, you don't. You don't stop worrying about them. But for me, I'm living the free life and I love it, but I don't stop worrying about my kids. And so as a mom, I sit here and this story kills me because I'm just like, they were so excited. They were going to have a grandchild, their daughter, who they love dearly and was a fucking fabulous person, goes missing and gets taken away from them. And it's like, I don't know how you move on from that. And I mean, I feel that way about any time you hear of somebody getting murdered, but somehow, some way, I feel like when it's your child, whether it's a little child or an adult child, it's worse because parents are not supposed to outlive their kids.
Listen, I'm just going to say it. He didn't want to keep it in his pants and he didn't want her to have a baby. And I personally think he just fucking raged out and was like, if you're not going to take care of it, I will. That's kind of how
I feel that way too.
His brain probably was.
I feel that way
too. Which is even more like, fuck you.
And
just like, fuck you.
These are the things that always scare me because especially having a daughter who has had boyfriends and someday will date again. And it does scare me because it's like, you just never fucking know. You don't know the people that your children are marrying. I feel
you can be with somebody for a long time and not
absolutely
know.
Absolutely. There's people who
Which
get
is the shitty part.
hurt by their significant other of 20 years, so this story was really horrific to research. It was really sad. The only plus side is from the beginning the parents definitely thought that Steven had something to do with it and they were right, and at least they were able to aid in him being caught and put into jail and taken off the streets so that he couldn't do this to anybody else. And then they don't have to worry about him at all. So
all I wish is that, well, obviously that it would have never happened, but that there's no way that they're going to find the body now.
No.
So I just hope that in the time that family just in their own fashion gets, healing and closure because he didn't give it to them.
No.
Because even if he would have told them where the body is, that he wasn't, that whether he knew where it was at or not, he wasn't gonna fucking.
He's garbage.
Yeah,
he's garbage.
Yeah,
And so, you know, garbage pail kids belong in jail. So that's where he's going to be for at least a while. And I hope he stays there for at least the 50 years and he doesn't get, and I hope that he doesn't ever get parole, and I hope he dies in prison because that's what he deserves. So that's the story of Steven
Piece of
Capobianco,
Capobianco.
garbage pail kid. And that's where we'll be at. If you like this episode or episodes like this, keep listening. We've definitely been international at this point, and I appreciate it. We appreciate it. Share us with anyone that you think might also like us, who might like the fact that we don't sugarcoat shit. And you can follow us on Instagram at Crime Bee Podcast. You can follow us on X at Crime Bitches. Follow us on all of the platforms, and whatever you're listening to us on right now, click the follow, and then that way you'll just get notified every time we have a new episode out. This is where I'm going to say, catch you on the flip side, bitches.
Bye, bitches.